Welcome to another solo episode of the Insight Podcast. Have you been disappointed recently? Maybe you didn't quite hit a PB at your last race, messed up a presentation at work, been on a few dates and fallen for someone who doesn't like you as much as you like them. These are just some examples of life's little disappointments, and these little disappointments are interesting. They're significant enough to leave you feeling a bit disorientated and doubting yourself, but not significant enough to completely derail you or warrant you dwelling on them for too long. You go over them in your head for a few days afterwards, don't you? You have some of those mini cringe attacks when you think about the embarrassment. But at the same time, you're annoyed with yourself because you think you should have moved on by now. They're just annoying little knocks to your self-esteem, but they do start to have a more significant effect when they get stacked on top of each other. When not getting the job you applied for, plus pulling a muscle, plus some bad luck in your love life, it all adds up. What's also interesting is the conversations that happen with other people and in your head after the little disappointments. People around you who, yes, want to make you feel better, want you to get over the disappointment quickly and remind you that it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. It's just a high rocks, plenty more fish in the sea. At least you've got a job. It might not be intentional, but there's a hint of your disappointment being dismissed as unworthy of any time or attention. Maybe this is your internal dialogue too. You don't want to allow yourself to feel the feeling of disappointment because you think how ungrateful or selfish that would be. How dare you stress about a date going wrong, a minor mishap at work, or a couple of seconds in a race? You know the horrors going on in the world. This is nothing. Just think of all those people suffering. And of course, this is true. Putting things in perspective is helpful. We should recognise that there are bigger issues in the world. We really shouldn't get derailed by a minor setback. We should appreciate what we have already without being consumed by wanting more and then being frustrated when we don't get it. But still, your disappointment is your disappointment. You are allowed to feel angry, annoyed, or embarrassed. You're allowed to feel like you've let yourself or others down. You feel all of those things because you set out to do something that matters to you. You feel confident and alive when you're working towards something, even if friends and family don't get it. And we can't all have plans of winning an Olympic medal or building a multi-million-pound business. So we set ourselves our own little missions. And these little missions are what life is all about. The seemingly insignificant stepping stones that can help create a life of enjoyment, happiness, and meaning. Part of that means, though, that if we're constantly setting ourselves these little missions, we're going to fail a lot of the time. So what do we do when that happens? Once the frustration fades, how are you going to move on? What are you going to learn? How might you grow from the setback? Well, here are 5 approaches that have helped me face up to some of life's little disappointments. Number 1, take time to feel the feels. Instead of pushing the disappointment away, dismissing or trying to stay positive, I let myself feel it. I take time to mull over what happened. I'm interested in the story I'm telling myself around it. I let it digest. This can feel indulgent, but I remind myself that it isn't. It's healthy. I've tried setting a timer for 5 minutes and writing down whatever I'm thinking or feeling, trying not to judge what comes out and just letting it flow. I ask myself, why does this matter so much? What might happen now? Who does this affect? Number 2, zoom out and think about your why. These little disappointments hurt because we feel like they say something about our identity. I can't go slower in a race. I post all the time about training. How embarrassing that training workshop that I delivered went so badly. This is what I do for a living. Or am I really that unlikable that this person doesn't want to date me? Do they know what a catch I am? On the flip side, reminding myself of these identities is helpful. Do I want to be the kind of guy that's obsessed with his race times and is serious and miserable during and after every race? Or do I want to be the kind of guy that enjoys the training process, gives his all, takes in the atmosphere on the day, and just appreciates the time with his training buddies? Of course, I want to be the second guy. So if I remind myself of that bigger picture and the reasons why I started competing in the first place, That helps massively. I also don't want one thing to be my whole identity. Like, I could make the fact that I'm single, childless, do high rocks, and I'm a vegan as well. I could let any of those things define me and dive fully into one of those communities. But that doesn't appeal. I want to have different interests, communities, and topics of conversation to engage with. So this also helps because if I let myself down in one area of my life, I can remember the other parts that are going well. Okay, number 3, make space from the story. Kind of linked to that is creating a bit of space between you and the story you're telling yourself. After a little disappointment, I can start to say things to myself like, I'm not good enough, I've wasted so much time, or this is going to keep happening to me. And it's horrible how real, how true these thoughts feel in the moment. But what can be really helpful is, again, just saying them out loud to myself, writing them down, or telling a friend. And just that bit of distance makes me question the story I'm telling myself. I sometimes tell a friend what I'm thinking after a disappointment, and instantly I feel better, like a weight has been lifted. Because as soon as it's out and shared, I can see how irrational it is. Of course, I haven't wasted time training because I didn't get a PB. I had so much fun and loved every minute of the training sessions I did in the lead up to it. Of course, I'm not destined to be alone because one person didn't want to take things further. And the power in creating that space between you and your inner critic, the story you're telling yourself, should not be underestimated. Number 4, what did I learn? So, I've taken the time to feel the feels, reminded myself of my why, made space between me and my story. What next? Well, once the cringy, awkward, annoyed feeling I have subsides, I can start to think about what I've actually learned from the little disappointment. I can write down 3 things that were actually a positive, or some way that I demonstrated my strengths despite the disappointment. I can also write down 3 things that I now realise were oversights, weaknesses, or examples of me replaying a pattern that I want to stop. Like, I was told I was kind and warm after those dates. That's nice. But I didn't communicate very well and didn't make my expectations clear. That's interesting. I ran faster than I've ever run in that race. That's nice. But man, I wasted at least 30 seconds on those burpee broad jumps. So this curiosity around what went well, what could be better, can help transform some of my regrets around a disappointment into insights. And this perspective should lead to growth. Some understanding of what to do differently the next time the same thing happens, which it inevitably will. This is without even making a plan. It's just awareness. And a lot of the time, just that awareness is enough to feel comforted and more confident in what to do next time. Number 5, take action. Finally, it's time to make a plan, isn't it? And move on. Dwelling on the disappointment eventually becomes a waste of time. Now I know what the story is and what I could have done differently. I want to take action. In the last step, I thought about a weakness, an oversight, a repeating pattern. Now I can focus on just one of those things and what I can do with that. For example, sorry to go back to high rocks. I lost time on the burpee broad jumps. I need to work on those. I could add them to the end of one of my training sessions per week. I could find strengthening exercises for that station and design a training session with 4 to 5 of those exercises. I could, in terms of dating, think, well, I spotted a couple of red flags on the first couple of dates with that person. Next time I should trust my intuition and be okay with just walking away and leaving it there. Or maybe at work, I talked at my audience too much during that presentation. I could research some good activities for getting my audience to participate and engage more and add those next time. So these are just some examples, but hopefully they give you an idea of how the steps could be applied to a little disappointment you might have had recently. One final note, of course, this isn't a linear process. The thoughts might come back and punch you in the face out of nowhere, and that's okay. Sit with them again. You might have to jump back and forth between your plan and thinking about the story you're telling yourself, and that's okay too. But then back to the plan of action. Right, that's me done. Another solo episode. Planning on doing more of these. If you found it helpful, useful, please follow the show, comment on the episode in Spotify, like and share any highlight clips I post. It all helps. feed my ego and stave off the next period of doubt and insecurity. Cheers.